Good evening. Today I want to tell about bizarre UFO connection with us. There is a universal, limitless, free electromagnetic energy being used by scientists to make terrestrial UFOs, and those who refuse to work on these machines or try to resist conducting experiments are programmed to obey orders by subliminal and remote mechanical means. There is a growing concern that subliminal engineering has been going on for some time and that it is connected directly with the development of terrestrial UFOs. A small chain of dedicated researchers, working underground throughout the world, now feel they have evidence that the great UFO cover-up does not deal with captured extraterrestrial technology but with highly specialized technical and secret black projects being conducted at various remote locations on our own planet. They know that those who wish to hide these facts will go to any lengths to avoid compromising their projects, and that many scientists who have been reported missing or dead are working on these UFOs, space travel and time travel. Even more awesome is the report that some of the most outstanding scientists have been offered honorable positions at non-existing institutions, and they are forced to work on specific projects in secret underground locations around the world. If they resist in any way, they are deprived of their individuality and programmed to obey any instruction given them by subliminal suggestion and or implanting electrodes in the brain. They have been treated in such a way as to become little more than robots who obey any order, including orders to assassinate others. Another method employed is the use of powerful telepaths, scanners, and machines that synchronize the brain waves to some kind of emitted electromagnetic wave. Refer to NSA and DIA-SCAN-8 projects. There is no physical contact and the target has no knowledge that subliminal suggestion has occurred, believing the ideas to be their own. We have received reports and information about experiments in free energy, magnetic energy machines, invisibility, time and space transport, and even reports of suicides, accidents and murder as a result of subliminal suggestion. One of my overseas contacts states, when reported to the Commission of Human Rights in Strasbourg, their comment was, "The victims have to complain themselves." That, of course, is highly unlikely. Ever since the 1950s, when a Fort Lee, New Jersey movie theater flashed "Drink Coca-Cola" over the face of actress Kim Novak during the showing of Picnic, there has been a growing controversy concerning the practice of subliminal suggestion. At that time, some congressmen in the Women's Christian Temperance Union voiced strong objections and called for an investigation. Hal C. Becker, president of Behavioral Engineering Corporation in Metairie, Louisiana, stated that he had implanted electrodes in the human brain when he was an engineer at Tulane Medical School. That was a beginning. In looking at the subject of subliminal suggestion and conditioning today, we now find a wide scope of more frightening possibilities. On an NBC Magazine TV news special, March 13, 1981, a segment on mind control was aired. It was reported at that time that the Russians were known to be experimenting with changing human behavior by external electronic influences, and witnesses expressed fear that the minds of many of the world's most important and influential people are now being controlled by these processes. Witnesses told of seeing experiments where a person's spinal cord was paralyzed by the mental suggestion of a scanner less than a half-mile away. They also told of another experiment where a person in one room was influenced by a scanner in another room to become so dizzy he could not stand. It has been shown that the human brain does emit electric energy and that it may be harnessed and used in a laboratory. In Leningrad, a man is able to light a bulb using only his mental powers. The news program discussed an experiment where someone tried to influence the mind of another who was speaking on a radio, to see if the speech could be changed during the program. Near Portland, Oregon, there are unusual radio waves of an extremely low frequency pulsating 10 times a second. I can pick these up on my shortwave radio nightly. Sources, some of them classified, have traced these pulses to a transmitter in the former Soviet Union. These sources will not discuss their work. There is no evidence that anyone has suffered biological effects from the signal, but they are at the frequency that the human body functions, 10 Hz, the range of biological frequencies. The implication is that extremely low frequencies like that, absorbed by the body and brain, can influence brain waves. The brain can be disrupted by electronic fields and microwaves, because whenever you can get a resonate frequency between portions of the brain and physical energy, then you can alter the structure of the brain or any other organ in the body. Heart attacks could be induced, for example. An experiment was witnessed where someone in another room fractured the spinal cord of a person and disrupted mental processes. Why would anyone want to fracture spinal cords or make another person ill? Why disorient or control another human being? Bizarre as it may seem, we are beginning to discover reasons. Since this concerns only terrestrial UFOs and their possible connections to subliminal suggestion and conditioning, we cannot, at this point, ignore the fact that over the years, there have been thousands of apparently honest accounts of personal contacts with UFOs and their occupants and a number of perfectly credible abduction episodes. Some have returned proclaiming messages of hope and love from our space brothers, some of which have accurately predicted future events. These contacts have posed some of the most perplexing questions concerning the UFO enigma. Considering that very knowledgeable people are able to deliberately project thoughts, experiences and visions, perhaps even words, into the minds of witnesses all over the world, the answer is a practical though fearsome conclusion. Someone is conducting mass subliminal suggestion and mind control. Additionally, there have been and still are intelligence agencies, often using front organizations, who are exploiting the extraterrestrial hysteria while busily collecting data on the effects of terrestrial UFO sightings. Knowledge has been systematically controlled down through the ages. In the past, all women and most men were denied the right to learn to read or write, and wisdom was granted only to the select few. Books were burned, information recorded on stone, wood or clay was defaced, destroyed or hidden from the profane. Lest you think anything has changed, may I remind you of the secret documents to be released after the year 2000. They include information on Kissinger's Dead Key Scrolls, Watergate, Martin Luther King's and JFK's deaths. It should be obvious to all but a few that we will not be told about mind control and terrestrial UFOs as long as there are those who think we should not know. In his book, Messengers of Deception, Jacques Vallée, well-known French astrophysicist and UFO investigator, tells of mind manipulators who are controlling certain individuals on this planet. There are many scattered pieces to this great and intriguing puzzle. It is possible that many suicides and deaths by heart attack have been caused by subliminal suggestion when some who have dedicated themselves to finding out the truth have ventured too far into the realm of arcane knowledge. We may soon learn why Admiral Forrestal took a dive out of a naval hospital window, why Admiral Byrd lacked sensible explanation about his findings at the South Pole, and why his original report is missing from libraries and collections. There has already been much speculation on the death of Morris K. Jessup, well-known UFO researcher and writer, and much has been written on the subject. There are others too numerous to note, but we will briefly discuss Dr. James E. McDonald. Among many other things, he was a respected scientist. While researching the unclassified files at Project Blue Book in the spring of 1967, he came across a copy of the Robertson Panel report that had accidentally been declassified. He took notes and was troubled when he read that the government had been advised to launch a comprehensive program of public training and debunking in regard to UFOs. Robertson Panel, pages 18 to 24, tab A. The CIA-sponsored panel suggested that the government employ well-known personalities, Walt Disney Productions, and psychologists to begin massive UFO debunking campaigns to either decrease or completely eliminate civilian UFO reports. The news services carried McDonald's accusations across the nation. Dr. McDonald also accused Dr. Hynek for refusing to release important information on UFOs for many years. McDonald found many other things that disturbed him in regard to UFOs. He was called to testify about the SST supersonic transport to the House Committee on Appropriations and was promptly attacked by Congressman Silvio Conde of Massachusetts, proclaiming that McDonald had to back up his theory that there are little men flying around in the sky. I think that this is important. 92nd Congress, First Session. 4th of March, 9171, pages 587, 592. The SST was McDonald's last project. He had ventured too far into the fog surrounding the UFO enigma. He was found dead in the desert near Tucson, Arizona on June 13, 1971. A .38 caliber revolver and a note were found beside his body, and it was presumed that he had taken his own life. Those who pursue the riddle of UFOs have always been held up to public ridicule. In 1962, Arthur Sylvester, then Assistant Secretary of Defense, told reporters that the government took the position that lying was okay if justified by the results. It is possible and probable that many nations are involved in the production terrestrial UFOs. A number of sources claim that Nazi scientists produced models for Hitler's war machine, and then for Russia, Communist China and America after the cessation of hostilities. Reports abound of research stations in Antarctica, Australia, South Africa, South America, Tibet, and the American Southwest Desert. The Danish weekly, Dansk Tidende, carried an article claiming that the Russians have occupied the Norwegian island of Svalbard and were transporting what appeared to be UFO-type machines. Renato Vesco, Italian author, head of the technical section of the Italian Air Force, and senior member of the Italian Association of Aerotechnics, wrote about the history of terrestrial UFOs in 1968. His book, originally published as Intercettedly Senza Sparare, Milan, was later published in English entitled, Intercept But Don't Shoot, The True Story of the Flying Saucers. Mr. Vesco states that England and Canada continued German UFO projects after the war. 250,000 young Germans were never found. After the war, there are probably more pure Germans in South America and South Africa than in Germany. What could these elite scientists and engineers, living in protected enclaves, accomplish if funded by the plundered wealth of Europe? It staggers the imagination. It is believed that some high-ranking atomic scientists, sometime between 1933 and 1945, erected a secret research center in a remote valley in Tibet. Monks who have escaped the area and made contact with the outside world report that the scientists have magnetic devices in operation. One such magnetic device forms an impenetrable wall around the valley where terrestrial UFOs are manufactured. These machines are capable of instantaneous movement to any location on Earth and often are invisible while in flight. The machines described, whether real or projected, are identical to thousands reported around the world. It now seems entirely possible that many of the most intelligent and capable people in the world can be made to work on these secret projects, and that there are those who will go to any lengths to protect these bases and laboratories. It is also possible and highly probable that the truth of UFOs is not that there are extraterrestrials regularly visiting Earth, but, rather, that there is an Aryan super race ready to take over complete control of the planet. With turmoil and conflict increasing worldwide, it would be comforting to believe that ever-watchful creatures will swoop down to save us from ourselves at just the right moment. However, we feel this complacency and faith in false saviors will only make it easier for the terrestrial UFO pilots to murder millions of humans with little effort at all. Thank you, and see you in next most bizarre videos.